after last week's debacle about Spider-Man, I don't want to hear another news story about Marvel or Disney or the MCU. I can't take it anymore. I need a break. Okay, break's over. Time to be excited again. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron, and this is Comic Class, the show on this channel where we just geek out about comic books, and I swear to you, we do occasionally talk about things that aren't related to the MCU. But what can I say, last weekend was D23, Disney's big convention where they come in and announce all their upcoming projects, and yeah, there were some announcements made about some upcoming Marvel projects that actually had me really excited. And not just excited, but also questioning a couple of things. Not in a bad way. Not in a way like, well, why on earth would you do something like that? No, more of a, well, how are you going to do something like that? And there's some questions I haven't really seen a lot of other people out there asking, so yeah, I kind of want to come out here and just discuss a little bit. However, before we start talking about all that stuff that I'm really looking forward to, let's talk about some of the other announcements that, yes, they may not be up there with, like, say, Ms. Marvel and She-Hulk for me, but they were definitely still worth mentioning. First one being that Kit Harington, Jon Snow himself, is joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this was hinted at a little bit for a few weeks before this, and people started thinking, oh, he could be their Wolverine. He could be the brand new Wolverine. And it was announced, he is not the brand new Wolverine. Instead, he is going to be in the upcoming Eternals film as the Black Knight. And I am very, very torn on this. Because on the one hand, I think Kit Harington could actually be a great Black Knight. And I think it's kind of awesome that the Black Knight is joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I saw some people getting upset that, oh, he's such an obscure character. Brother, after this many years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we're still coming in here and going, why would you put such an obscure character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? One of the biggest franchises in the world right now stars a talking raccoon and a tree, played by two A-list actors who nobody knew existed 2 years before their film came out. I will now pause so all the comic book fans can come into the comments and go, I knew who Rocket Raccoon was before the movie came out. Yes, of course you guys did, but you also know who Black Knight is. My point is, they were insanely obscure characters. No one knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. In fact, if we want to really get honest about this, before the Iron Man movie came out, nobody who wasn't a comic book fan knew who Iron Man was. Hell, Don Cheadle, who is War Machine, didn't even know who Iron Man was before his movie came out. He thought he was a robot before that film was made. So yes, Marvel has been doing this for over a decade at this point. Coming in here, taking characters who nobody cares about, and making everybody care about them. Making them huge, gigantic stars. And I think Black Knight is a very interesting character. He is a character with a cursed sword that if it kills someone, now basically drives you insane. And it's been passed down through his family with every member before him falling victim to that fate. Slowly going mad from the curse of this blade. I think that's kind of awesome that we're going to get a character like that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it's going to be played by Jon Snow. Heck yeah, he is going to be an awesome fit for that. Here's my question though. He's going to be in the Eternals film. Why? Why is Black Knight going to be starting out in the Eternals film? Does he have some deep connection to the Eternals that I don't know about? Because I will gladly come in here and admit, I know a little bit about the Black Knight, but when it comes to the Eternals, that is a huge gap in my education. All I really know about the Eternals is Cersei, because she was on the Avengers when I was a kid. She was also on the Avengers with the Black Knight at the exact same time, so maybe that's why they're going to be in the same movie together? Maybe they're like, hey, you were both on the Avengers at the exact same time. Let's start setting up the two of you together to possibly be on the Avengers in the future. Maybe that's what they have planned. I have no idea why Black Knight is going to be in the Eternals film. So maybe they're going to take the Black Knight's sword and somehow tie that into the Eternals? Make that like an Eternals weapon? Or maybe they're going to make the Black Knight a member of the Eternals? Maybe this is going to be part of like the Black Knight's origin story and he finds the sword among the Eternals and that leads into a future Black Knight movie or Black Knight appearance, because it's very clear that they are trying to set up Black Knight for future stuff in this film. This is not going to be the only thing that Black Knight is in. He's going to pop up in here, he's going to be a part of this storyline, but he's mostly going to be here so that he can say, hey, check me out in future stuff. Which is totally fine. I mean, Marvel's been doing that for a decade, and it's been working for the most part, so hey, I'm totally cool with that, as long as they don't just stop the Eternals film to go and check out some future Black Knight stuff. I would really enjoy it if he popped up in here, had a little bit to do with the plot, but was still mostly an Eternals film, but then maybe we get that post-credit stinger of him finding the sword among the Eternals' homeland. Who knows? But at the moment, yeah, it's just kind of odd to me that Black Knight is going to be a member of the Eternals. However, even though I am excited for the Black Knight to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I do think that there is a way to tie him into the Eternals, I am a little bit nervous about this casting. And you might be saying, didn't you just seem excited a moment ago about this casting and say that was actually a really good choice? Yes, it is a really good choice. In fact, it might be too good of a choice. I know that's a weird complaint, but hear me out on this one. They're trying to make the Eternals Game of Thrones in space, which I kept saying forever is what they need to do with the Inhumans. And then they try to do that with the Inhumans by handing it to the wrong person to put on television with no budget. So now they're going to hand it off to hopefully the right people to put in movies with a budget. So hopefully they're going to take what they should have done with the Inhumans and find a way to make it work with the Eternals. So I'm very excited to see if this actually plays out, if they actually can make Game of Thrones in space. But for their Game of Thrones in space film, they're getting a guy who is a knight, and the guy they chose to play the knight in the Game of Thrones film was a knight from actual Game of Thrones. It just feels way too safe. It just feels like way too obvious. I would have preferred like an oddball pick. Just somebody that makes you go, how on earth are they going to play that? Because I feel like a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far has been people that would make you say, what? And then they turn in great performances. So yeah, I don't know. It is perfect casting, but it's one of those few times where the casting is so perfect, you're like, oh, well, that just took like no courage or work at all. That was just a totally safe pick. But sometimes the safe pick is the correct pick. So, hey man, I can't really complain that much. It's just very odd to me that they decided to go with that. Now, before I move on from the Eternals, there is one last thing that I want to say about this film, which is that if you saw our coverage of San Diego Comic-Con, you know I was very excited for this movie. I came in here and I said, oh man, the Eternals with a premise like Game of Thrones in space, that's a great thing to do with them. And this cast looks amazing. I love everyone in this cast. I am so excited for this film. And after D23, still excited for this cast, still excited for the premise. But I now have that first thing that actually has me a little bit nervous, which is that they showed off all the characters' costumes. I think those costumes look bad. I think they look really, really bland and uninteresting. I will give them this. At least everybody has distinct colors. So that's good. That's good that everybody has very bright primary colors. That'll help them stand out in your mind. And it'll help you remember them. But yeah, aside from the colors, I think that everything else about those costumes are kind of weak. I think it's just generic space outfits. It's just skin-tight things with a bunch of lines on there. And I know they wanted to give them all this unifying look, make it feel like they all came from the same place and they were all part of the same family and they were all together, but yeah, man, when it comes to making characters stand out and be likable in the audience's minds, you gotta make the costumes a little bit more distinct than this. So yeah, I gotta be honest with you guys. Still excited for a lot of stuff in this film, but this is the first thing I've seen that's made me go, oh, this might not work. Oh, those costumes do not look like things that people are going to line up for. However, that cast is still really good. So I think that as long as they have a good enough cast that speaks to a large enough audience, I think that that can overcome the fact that these costumes are not that great. But this could just be like the start. This could just be like an early model. Who knows how much of this they filmed yet. Maybe they're going to do some market research and go, okay, people aren't really responding that well to these costumes. Let's change them up a little bit. There is still time for them to do some work on these costumes. But man, they just look so bland. They just look so mediocre. And for a cast like this, they deserve more than mediocre. Next, I'm not going to go into too many details about this, but we did see the plans that they have in store for all the Marvel rides at Disneyland. Like I said, not going to cover this a lot. However, there is one thing that they showed off in the concept art for these upcoming Marvel rides that makes me really interested. They showed that you're going to be there and you're going to be trained to be a member of the Avengers, and you're going to be going on this ride with the Avengers, just swooping around on their missions. And one of the concept arts showed who the villains are going to be in this ride. It's the Brood. Yeah, the Brood are making their sort of Marvel Cinematic Universe first appearance as parts of a ride at Disneyland. That is so weird to me that the giant insect xenomorph ripoffs from the X-Men comics are going to be appearing in a ride at Disneyland. That is so bizarre to me. But at the same time, it makes perfect sense. You want some kind of big monster that you can have the audience look at and go, oh my goodness, they're flying everywhere as you swoop around them. Or maybe they give you like little laser guns to blast the Brood yourself. Yeah, the Brood are perfect monsters to have for that. However, yes, I do know that the Brood are one of those villains who kind of fit in two different realms. Because on the one hand, they're definitely X-Men villains. But on the other hand, they're also kind of Guardians of the Galaxy villains. They kind of fit under that camp as well. But they're mostly X-Men villains. Come on, when we all think of the Brood, we mostly think of the X-Men. So that means that the very first X-Men villains that we are going to get in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to be the Brood in a Disneyland ride. I have nothing more to add to that. I just think that's something really interesting to point out. But now it's time to talk about the thing that everyone has been looking forward to, the brand new Disney Plus shows. But before we talk about the brand new Disney Plus shows, time to talk about an already announced Disney Plus show. Because at this year's D23, we got to see some promo art for the upcoming WandaVision show. I could not be more excited for that show after seeing that promo art. This now jumped up to maybe being my most anticipated series from all those Disney Plus shows. What we saw in this promo art is a very simple image. It is Wanda and Vision in this 1950s Leave It to Beaver style setting. They're just sitting there on the couch, she's in this old dress, he's dressed up like he should be holding a pipe, and they're just sitting there laughing. Oh, they're just having a good old time. You know this is not going to go well. You look at that image and you go, this is a fantasy world. And this whole series is going to be about Wanda having to deal with the death of Vision by creating this fantasy world. What I get when I look at that is that this is going to be a combination of all the mental issues that Wanda Maximoff has gone through in the comics and the Tom King Vision series. And if you know anything about either of those two, the idea of the two of them coming together is huge. There is so much potential for what they can do with this story. Because, for anybody who doesn't know, in the Tom King Vision series, Vision decided he was going to settle down. He built himself a family, moved into this little suburban neighborhood, and he decided, I'm just going to get a regular job, raising this family, they're going to go to school, we're just going to be like normal people. And then everything went wrong. There was a murder mystery, his family turned against each other. I'm not going to spoil too much for anybody who hasn't read that, but it was an amazing series. And then, when it comes to Wanda, she has reality-altering powers. And we haven't really seen much of that in the movies. However, I've always theorized that they were building up to that. This is a theory that I have because, as we know, they shifted around the colors for each of the Infinity Gems in the movies. And I always wondered why they did that. And it was when I was watching Infinity War that it kind of hit me, oh, it's because now each of them have colors that kind of apply to who uses them. Because Thanos, you know, he's big in purple. The first stone that he got was the Power Stone. They made the Power Stone purple, so now whenever he is going through, just tearing through people with that stone, it's like the colors of Thanos are ripping into people. It's like, oh, okay, so to make it seem more cinematically appropriate, bam, that makes sense. But Wanda, in the comics, has the power to alter reality. And in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so far she's really only just had telekinesis and a little bit of telepathy, but in the MCU, she got her powers because Hydra experimented on her with the stones. What color is the Reality Stone? Red. What's the color of the energy that the Scarlet Witch uses? Red. I've been saying they are building up to Wanda discovering she has the power to alter reality. So I'm looking at this promo art and I'm saying, I think Wanda is going to snap. I think Wanda is going to just collapse under the pressure of the Vision dying, and she is going to awaken her reality-altering powers and just create this pure fantasy land where her and Vision, they're leading this nice little televised life. It's like just something that you would see in one of those old sitcoms where everything works out and you have this nice loving family in there, but you know it's going to start ripping apart. You know crushing reality is going to start working its way back in there. And as I said, there was a murder mystery in the Vision book. The very first issue of that ends with the Vision's wife killing someone. I'm looking at this going, what if someone comes in there and is like, Wanda, you know this isn't real, and then she fights back, ends up killing him, and then they're like, oh no, it's fine, we're just gonna sweep that under the rug, no, that happened, everything's fine, everything's good, and then more bits of reality start coming in there, and Wanda just can't take the pressure, and then you eventually see like Vision himself is going, Wanda, you know this isn't real, you know I'm gone, you have to accept that. I can see so many emotional beats that this storyline can take. Heck, you could even bring Quicksilver back in this. You could bring Quicksilver back in here and have him just be like, oh yeah, my brother's also alive too, everyone. Nothing happened there. And then she just keeps getting like flashes of what happened in Sokovia happening to her. Yeah, I think that this could be an insane series. And I really want to see where they go with this. But alright, now finally on to the brand new Marvel Disney Plus shows. We have gotten Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, and She-Hulk. These are the perfect 3 shows to announce for Disney Plus to make people go, oh, you're actually gonna try some different stuff in here. Because none of those 3 shows are going to be like each other. And none of them are going to be like things that we have seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far. And yet, because it's on Disney Plus and not on Netflix, you don't have to come in here and just vaguely go, oh yeah, that guy who wears the American flag, you know, what's his face over there? And oh yes, the incident. The incident, which we can't actually mention. The event. Yes, that thing. No, because this is on Disney Plus, you can actually just tie it all the way into the movies. You can have these characters pop up in the movies, and I will get to that in just a second, but I love that they have announced that these are the shows coming to Disney Plus because, A, they're characters that we have not seen in the movies yet. Meaning that Disney Plus is not just going to be the movies continued. Just the side stories for the characters that we saw in the movies. What they're doing in between the movies. No, it's going to be brand new original stuff that wouldn't honestly fit in the movies. And that's the other thing that has me really excited about these shows. Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, all 3 of those work so much better as TV shows than they do as movies. Because take Moon Knight. He is a crime-fighting vigilante, goes out there in the dark of night and just fights regular muggers and then supernatural creatures as well. That works so much better as a television series because then you can have some kind of a mystery building up from one episode into the next. And yes, you can have a mystery build up over the course of an entire film, but you can get so much more mileage out of a mystery in a television series than you can in a movie. Having something that builds up with cliffhangers at the end of every single episode, that works so much better. But also, if they take influence from Warren Ellis's run on Moon Knight, that entire series was an anthology series. Every single issue had a completely different theme, completely different thread, completely different storyline that was entirely self-contained. You can do that in a television series way better than a movie. You can't do an anthology for one character you've never seen before in a movie. I mean, I guess you could, but it wouldn't work nearly as well as it would in a television series where every single episode can just be something completely different. Remember, Moon Knight has multiple personalities. Every single episode can just focus on a different personality. That is a perfect setup. His character is designed for television over films. Or look at Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel is a story about someone finding their place in the world as they grow up. Ms. Marvel has always been a story about growing up. And stories about growing up work so much better in television than they do in movies. Don't get me wrong, there are great stories out there told in movies about growing up. There are great movies about that. But there are always movies about growing up in one particular way, through one particular adventure. on one particular evening, in one particular week, at one particular point in your life. But when it comes to television, you can really show the entire range of growing up. You can have every single episode be, on this week, Kamala has to face this. On this week, Kamala has to deal with this. Here's the important lesson that Kamala learns this week. Yeah, it works so much better for television. Also, when it comes to television, you can have Miss Marvel now be a seasonal thing. Something where every single year we get a couple of brand new Miss Marvel episodes talking about what has happened to Miss Marvel that year of her life. But when it comes to a movie, there's gonna be about 2 or 3 years in between each Miss Marvel movie, meaning there's gonna be huge chunks of her life that we just completely ignore. Unless you're Spider-Man, where you just stop existing in between each movie because you were snapped out of existence by Thanos. Yeah, you can't really do that except once. And we already used it on Spider-Man. So Kamala works way better in television. And She-Hulk is such a good choice for a television series. Because She-Hulk, listen, when it comes to the movies, everybody wants a movie where there's gonna be some big climactic battle, there's some big ultra evil that you have to go up against. She-Hulk is a lawyer. And don't get me wrong, She-Hulk has punched really big evil things before, but the far more interesting story to tell with She-Hulk is of her being a lawyer. The big climax of She-Hulk should not be her at the top of a tower punching some big supervillain. No, the climax of She-Hulk should be her giving her final statement in court. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that She-Hulk shouldn't punch a supervillain in there. Have her punch all the supervillains, I don't care. What I'm saying is, I don't want that to be the emotional climax. I don't want that to be the thing that the series is all building up to. No, I want She-Hulk's story to build up to her standing up there and saying, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that's what the big emotional climax of She-Hulk's story should be. And that works so much better in television than it does in movies. Don't get me wrong, there's several great movies out there about courtroom dramas. There are several great stories about lawyers out there in movies. But if you don't think that courtroom stories do incredibly well in television, you haven't paid attention to television in 2 decades. Yeah, that is something that people are just very accepting of in television. And again, if you want it to be a trial, like the entire storyline all revolves around one big trial, you can have so many different twists and turns that each build up in every single different episode. It's all perfect for television. So yeah, this is great. However, when it comes to Miss Marvel and She-Hulk, I have a couple of really big questions. First one, when it comes to Miss Marvel, are they going to make her an Inhuman? Are they? Because, remember, the Inhumans are kind of a dirty word in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. After Marvel spent years trying to shove them X-Men aside and go, you don't need them X-Men, you got the Inhumans right over here. You got our own version of the X-Men right here. You don't even need them at all. And everybody looked at that and went, that's not what we like about the Inhumans. Stop doing that to them and please give us the X-Men back. And it eventually kind of backfired. It's so bizarre to me that after Marvel spent years trying to get rid of the X-Men so that they can now make the Inhumans the big star, it backfired so badly on them, nobody wants to talk about the Inhumans. When they tried to shove the X-Men off screen, they ended up shoving the Inhumans off screen. Nobody wants to talk about those guys anymore. So could this be their opportunity to finally come back in here and go, yeah, listen, the Inhumans, tell your thing, and we're going to introduce them in Miss Marvel. Because if you're going to introduce them anywhere, that's probably the smartest place to actually introduce them, because people like Miss Marvel. So, hey, that could actually work out. Or, are they going to make Kamala a mutant? I'm not even joking about that. I mean that as a 100% serious question. Because yes, you could use Kamala to come in here and promote the Inhumans. Or you could say, the Inhumans absolutely flop for us. Nobody wants to be reminded of that television show, especially in this brand new platform that we're trying to build up here over on Disney+. But when you look at around the time that Kamala is going to be introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's around the time that we know some mutants are going to start popping up. It's around the time that we know they're going to start building up to the X-Men. So if you want to come in here and say in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Kamala is their first mutant, that would actually be a really good way to start going, mutants are here, everyone. Time to start talking about that. Time to start promoting the mutants out there, everybody. Oh, and this is our very first mutant. Oh, it's starting off small. They were on Disney Plus, but it's gonna build up and it's gonna grow until it's in the movies. Yeah, I can totally see them coming in here and going, Inhumans, nobody ever even heard about the Inhumans. We got the Eternals right over there, man. The Eternals, they're the big deal right over there. Oh my God, what if Kamala is an Eternal? Actually, forget all that. Let's not even worry about her possibly being an Eternal for now. Let's focus on the mutants. I can totally see them coming in here and changing it so that Kamala is now a mutant in order to help promote the upcoming X-Men stuff and also to try and distance themselves further from the Inhumans. And I know a lot of people out there who are fans of Kamala in the comics are going to come in here and say they can't possibly do that. Her being an Inhuman is such an important part of her character. I love Kamala Khan. She's one of my favorite Marvel characters out there. I've been a die-hard fan of that character ever since she was introduced in the comics. Is it though? Is her being an Inhuman actually that important to her character? Is it? And I know a lot of people are going to say, yes, it is important because it all serves as a big metaphor. She feels separate from other normal people out there because she's an Inhuman, and that is a big metaphor for what it's like to be Kamala Khan, to be growing up as a Pakistani American in America, or to be a young teenage girl who feels different from everyone else around her. Yes, it serves as a huge metaphor. Yes, it does. Her being a mutant would serve that exact same metaphor. It would absolutely, every single thing that her being an Inhuman has done for her character, her being a mutant would do the exact same thing. Oh, but she got her costume from Medusa and she got training from Medusa. Yeah, you can just make that any random X-Men. You can absolutely make that an X-Men. I know I'm gonna have people really mad at me, but yeah, she became an Inhuman at the time when they were basically stripping the Inhumans of everything that made them Inhumans to try and turn them into mutants light. So everything that makes Kamala an Inhuman works exactly the same if you make her a mutant. So I'm very interested to see, are they actually going to maybe change that and make her a mutant in the Disney Plus series? I'm very intrigued. Oh, I am not looking forward to the comments on this one. Let's get back to She-Hulk because I also have a question about what you're going to do with She-Hulk, because there's two different ways that you can represent She-Hulk in this series. You can either go with the version of her where she is more Hulkish, she is angrier, which was her original incarnation, and it's her current incarnation in the comics. So that would actually make sense because it was how the character was originally and is how she currently is in the comics, so it works on two different fronts. Or are you going to go the comedic route? Are you going to go with the fun-loving version of She-Hulk? Are you going to go with the version that we saw in John Byrne and Dan Slott and Charles Soule's run on the character, where she was more upbeat? She was the jolly green giantess. Is that the version that you're going to have with this character? In all honesty, I kind of want that to be what they do with the character, because that would be so different from everything else we've gotten from Marvel. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that sounds like a comedy, and we've gotten tons of comedies from Marvel. Not a comedy like this. Remember, She-Hulk was kind of Deadpool before Deadpool. She was breaking the fourth wall. She had just weird, zany adventures. Just in Dan Slott's run, it was just every crazy D-class thing you could imagine from Marvel Comics running around in the background at all times, and she was trying to solve the legal cases of all these different characters. It was a series that was a style of wacky and goofy shenanigans unlike anything that we had in Marvel Comics at the time. And I would honestly love to see them bring something like that to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because yes, we have things like Ant-Man, which are just flat out comedies, but there's still comedies that feel like they fit within the world they've established. It's like a working class, average Joe Schmo style of comedy. A She-Hulk comedy would be just an absolute slapstick, we're not even within the bounds of reality style comedy. It would be a comedy that can go to so many different places and make so much commentary about all the other stuff happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and just introduce us to so many weird new corners of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would love to see something like that. And if that's the direction that they want to go with this, if they want to try and capture that feeling of the Dan Slott run on this character, I want to have Tina Fey be the showrunner on this. I originally had this idea after I saw Adam Hughes say on Twitter that he wanted Tina Fey to play She-Hulk. I don't know how I feel about that. However, if you go and you read Dan Slott's run on She-Hulk, if you read some of those weirder John Byrne issues of She-Hulk, if you read the Charles Soule run on She-Hulk, it's basically 30 Rock. It's basically 30 Rock, except replace people with weird props for skits they're going to do on a late night show with superheroes and weird props that they use to fight criminals. Just replace all the different crazy characters living inside the 30 Rock building with all the D-class superheroes that were running around in the She-Hulk comics. Yeah, this is absolutely the perfect style of comedy to have for a She-Hulk series. It's exactly what we have seen in her series. I would love to see Tina Fey get brought on to be the showrunner for this show. Although, while we are talking about who could possibly play She-Hulk, that brings up a very interesting question. What exactly are you going to do with She-Hulk? Because when it comes to the Hulk, Bruce Banner, yeah, you get a normal human for that, but then when he turns into the Hulk, yeah, use CGI. Because the Hulk is larger than any human being could possibly physically be. But She-Hulk is not larger than someone could possibly physically be. She is just a very, very tall, very buff person. So it wouldn't really make sense to use CGI. Also, when it comes to the Hulk, yeah, Bruce Banner, well, okay, this is all changed now because now we have Professor Hulk running around who's the Hulk at all times. But before that, you had Bruce Banner the majority of the time. And they just turn into the Hulk every now and again. But with She-Hulk, she's pretty much She-Hulk 24/7. She rarely ever actually goes back to being Jen Walters. Unless, of course, they do go with the Dan Slott run where she does have to constantly go back and forth between the two, or if you go with her origin where she goes back and forth between the two. Listen, there's a lot of questions on how they're going to portray She-Hulk. I'm going to just ask them all at once. So, yeah, you could have her go CGI if you want her to be kind of like the Hulk. If you want to go with that original interpretation or the current interpretation where she is more Hulkish. But if you do want to go with the comedic route, in which she's She-Hulk at all times, and she's just a very tall person who's really buff, that wouldn't really make sense to make her CGI. So there's another alternative here, where you get an actress who's just really tall and really buff, and then you do the Steve Rogers and Captain America the First Avengers route, where you take the actress who's really big, really buff, and then you just CGI her head onto a smaller body whenever she's Jen Walters. But you could also go the route where you just get two completely different actresses who happen to look the same. Like they have just similar facial features, but one of them is like 2 feet taller than the other one, and you just have two totally different people play She-Hulk. Or you could get someone who's kind of in the middle between those two, and then you just use some camera effects to make her look shorter when she's Jen Walters, and then you use some camera effects to make her look taller when she's She-Hulk. There's a lot of different ways that you can go with this, and I don't really know which one is the smart answer. I don't really know which one is the correct way to go on this. Again, it all really comes down to how are you going to portray She-Hulk? Because if she's She-Hulk at all times, I don't want her to just be CGI. But if she goes back and forth between the two, that makes sense. But if she's going to be Jen Walters for really only like the first episode and then she's She-Hulk the rest of the time, yeah, just go the Steve Rogers route. I'm just spitballing so many ideas out here, but I do think it's an interesting question. I haven't really seen a lot of people asking it. Also, another question I have, are we going to get to see the Hulk pop up in She-Hulk? Because it would make sense, the two of them are cousins, and she got her powers from a blood transfusion that the Hulk gave her. However, this raises a lot of interesting questions now, because again, it all comes back to how are you going to portray She-Hulk? Because in the comics, the dynamic between the two was always, she's the fun-loving Hulk, she's the smart Hulk, he's the big angry Hulk. But now, Bruce has got his stuff figured out. Now, Bruce is Professor Hulk. He's the fun-loving, friendly Hulk. He's signing autographs for kids and he's dabbing. Yeah, he is the fun Hulk. So are you now going to have Jen be the angry Hulk? Or are you going to have two fun Hulks? Because honestly, I kind of want to see two fun Hulks. I kind of want to see Jen, after she's trying to come to terms with what the heck has happened to her, sitting down for lunch with her cousin, and you've just got two Hulks sitting down at a lunch table, and everybody's kind of staring over them like, what the heck is going on over there? It's like, pay no attention to the giant green people, we're having a private conversation here. And yeah, you just have the fun-loving Professor Hulk. They're like, Jen, trust me, I know it's weird, but you're gonna get used to this. And he's like, I can't even wear all my suits to court now, you idiot. I got an important date tomorrow. How am I going to show up for that when I'm giant and green? That doesn't make any sense. I would love to see some kind of a conversation between the two of them. Just at like a deli. Just at like a diner where everybody's just sitting there trying to ignore the fact that there's two Hulks sitting in a booth. But yeah, those are all the announcements that they made relating to Marvel at D23, at least all the ones that I thought were worth mentioning. Let me know which of those you find to be the most interesting in the comments down below, because I gotta be honest with you guys, yeah, I wasn't kidding at the start of this video in which I was like, man, I don't want to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. And then they announced these 3 Disney Plus shows and showed off that WandaVision stuff. And I'm like, well, now I kind of want to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I'm excited all over again. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is a very weird roller coaster because you get up to a point and then something happens that makes you go, oh, I don't want anything to do with that right now. And then it almost immediately builds right back up. Like, remember when Age of Ultron came out and everybody was like, yeah, that was good. Maybe it just wasn't as good as the other Avengers movie. Maybe I need a break from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then Ant-Man comes out and it's just Paul Rudd being charming and we're like, oh, I can't stay mad at you, Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah, it's very odd. Just the constant back and forth that we have with all these movies. But man, I'm getting a Moon Knight show. I'm getting a Miss Marvel show. I'm getting a She-Hulk show. I am so excited for all these things. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below or on Twitter and Twitch at Professor Thorgy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time. Bye.